It felt as though a long time had passed since Hyrcanus had last been here. He knew that someone was supposed to appear soon. A girl, but her name refused to come to mind. As if responding to his thoughts, an entity in the form of a young girl materialized before him. She congratulated him on completing his training and introduced herself as Ariadne. She explained that she was here to assist with his class selection. Using her powers, Ariadne explained the rules of class progression. First, one had to choose a base class. The skills obtained at this stage would determine all future development. She began describing the available options. The warrior was a close combat class, ideal for players who enjoyed fast-paced, dynamic battles. Hyrcanus was momentarily interested, but quickly dismissed the idea. He understood too well that in solo play, warriors faced overwhelming difficulties. Next, Ariadne introduced the cleric, a support-oriented class capable of healing and strengthening allies through magic. Hyrcanus rejected it without hesitation, stating that he had no intention of wasting his time helping others. Only one option remained. Ariadne smiled faintly and remarked that all that was left was to hope the game would be entertaining enough for him. The system immediately announced that the base class had been selected and that the player would be transported to the corresponding class tower. When Hyrcanus arrived, he found himself inside a vast chamber. An old man was seated atop an enormous floating book. He greeted Hyrcanus warmly as a young seeker of knowledge and introduced himself as Golko, explaining that he would serve as his guide along the path of magic. Golko then asked what kind of magic Hyrcanus wished to study. Hyrcanus replied calmly that he wanted to master dark magic. Silence filled the room. The old man hesitated before asking if Hyrcanus had meant earth magic. Hyrcanus clarified that he was speaking specifically about dark magic. Golko's expression changed completely. Shocked, he asked how Hyrcanus even knew of such an art. Dark magic, he warned, devoured the soul of its user. Hyrcanus answered without hesitation. He said he understood the risks and was prepared to stake everything. Golko began to tremble. After a moment, he nodded and said it was time to begin. His appearance suddenly shifted. In an instant, the kindly old man transformed into a living skeleton. Laughing loudly, Golko admitted that it had been a long time since he had seen a young man willing to walk such a path. He summoned a book of dark magic before Hyrcanus and instructed him to place his hand upon it, issuing one final warning that this road was far too treacherous for the faint of heart. Hyrcanus did not hesitate. He placed his hand on the book and declared that his heart was anything but weak. Black energy surged around him. Golko laughed again as he felt power flooding into Hyrcanus's body, remarking that at last, someone truly interesting had appeared. At that moment, Hyrcanus recalled a legendary video from his past life. Footage of a necromancer single-handedly defeating a raid boss. He realized that this was the power he needed. The system announced that Hyrcanus had become a necromancer and had obtained a skeletal fragment. Inspired, Hyrcanus immediately decided to test his new skill. He threw the skull, shrouded in dark energy, onto the ground. The system notified him that a skeletal warrior infused with his magic was forming. He watched as the creature took shape and rose before him. This time, he thought he would truly become a necromancer. Turning away, Hyrcanus noted that it was time to level up. The training dungeon should be nearby. But when he glanced back, he noticed that the skeleton's head had fallen off. Master and servant stood there, staring at each other in silence. A portal soon opened, and the system announced that Hyrcanus had entered the beginner training dungeon. His mood, however, darkened as he remembered how easily his skeleton had fallen apart. In his previous life, such summons had been far more reliable. He opened the stats window and examined the description of the skeletal fragment skill. Wondering if he had overused mana, Hyrcanus concluded that he urgently needed levels. A sudden noise made him turn sharply. A pack of coal wolves was approaching. Hyrcanus smiled. These monsters were not especially strong, but their speed made them ideal for testing skills. He activated Skeletal Fragment and ordered his summon to attack. The skeleton appeared instantly. The system announced that it had detected enemies and assumed a combat stance. Turning toward the wolves, the the skeleton let out a loud, unsettling roar. The wolves hesitated, but only briefly. Hyrcanus mentally commanded his servant to destroy them. The skeleton charged. First, everything looked promising. Hyrcanus even thought that at this rate, he would reach the maximum level quickly. Then the wolves struck. After a single blow, the skeleton was torn apart. The summoning skull rolled to Hyrcanus's feet. Genuine despair filled him. Anger and confusion surged together. He reopened the system interface, demanding to see the skill details. After rereading the description, he realized he had forgotten to set the operating mode. He switched the skeleton to defense mode. The result was the same. He tried special action mode. The skeleton began dancing. Hyrcanus nearly cried. Admitting defeat, he attempted to delete his character, only for the system to inform him that new accounts could not be deleted for 3 months. He realized he was trapped. He could not delete his character, could not change his class, and loan payments would begin in a month. Why, he wondered, did everything fall apart just as he thought he was moving forward? Looking at his useless skeleton, Hyrcanus begged it to at least stand still. Then suddenly realization struck. He remembered the legendary Necromancer again. Opening the stats window, he noticed something crucial: skills improved through combat. During the fight with the coal wolves, the skeleton had been watching him, studying his movements. A slow smile formed on Hyrcanus's face. He threw a club to his servant and told it that it was lucky to serve him. After all, he had once been called a genius. But in battle, there was only one rule. With those words, Hyrcanus lunged forward and delivered a crushing blow, declaring that if the skeleton did not dodge, it would die. The skeleton was sent flying into the stone wall. Hyrcanus ordered it to stand. Again and again he struck. Again and again the skeleton was hurled across the dungeon. He shouted at it to stop standing around like an idiot, to learn to dodge and counterattack when the chance arose. The skeleton wiped its face and prepared once more. This time the enemy was the coal wolves again. The skeleton dodged their attack, countered with a strike to the jaw, and finished with a powerful spinning kick. The wolves fell one by one. After the battle, the skeleton turned toward its master. Hyrcanus scolded it for losing focus, but inwardly admitted that the final blow had been impressive. The system announced that proficiency in Bone Shard had increased by several levels. Both master and servant leveled up. Some time later, Hyrcanus arrived at the starting village, Figa's castle. He observed that his student was learning quickly. With a few more days of training, the skeleton would be able to handle dungeons on its own. Now was the decisive moment. First, he needed to reach level 10. Suddenly, someone called out to him. A plump man stepped forward and demanded to know whether Hyrcanus understood that it was customary to apologize after colliding with someone. Hyrcanus ignored him. He had no time for nonsense. The fat man swung his fist in anger. Before it could land, a stranger appeared and intercepted the blow. The man calmly stated that people should not attack others with their fists. Though displeased, the fat man quickly backed down, assuming the stranger was an ally. Hyrcanus felt a chill run through him as he took in the stranger's clothes and powerful build. A name surfaced in his mind. His name was Matador Cheb. Hyrcanus recognized it instantly, a legendary warrior from his past life. Cold sweat broke out across Hyrcanus's back. Before he could stop himself, he shouted for the man to wait. However, the fat man paid no attention. Instead, he spat on the ground beside the legendary warrior and scoffed. He said Cheb should mind his own business if he did not understand the situation. After all, it was Hyrcanus who had collided with him and failed to apologize. With a sneer, the fat man added that Cheb had clearly never heard the saying, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. First, Cheb did not respond. Then, in the next instant, a terrifying aura erupted from his body. Hyrcanus felt it crash over him like a tidal wave. The sheer pressure left him stunned. Cheb's relaxed smile twisted into something chilling. Calmly, Cheb remarked that since the man had already struck him on the palm, perhaps he should return the gesture. The fat man's companion suddenly screamed in panic, shouting that the man standing before them was Matador Cheb himself, the leader of the Red Bulls Guild, one of the 30 strongest players, a battle-crazed madman known as a killer. The fat man turned pale and demanded to know why someone like that would even be in this place. Cheb answered by grabbing him firmly by the shoulder and telling him that he wanted to hear the answer directly from him. The fat man slowly turned around, his face completely twisted with fear. A second later, he bolted, fleeing together with his companion while screaming apologies over his shoulder. Cheb burst into loud laughter and remarked cheerfully that he was glad everything had been resolved peacefully. He patted Hyrcanus on the shoulder and asked if he was all right, advising him not to bother with people like that. Suddenly, Hyrcanus brushed his hand away. In a cold voice, he stated that next time, he would not need anyone's help. Cheb was left standing there, confused, unable to understand what had just happened. He watched Hyrcanus leave, thinking that the young man seemed unexpectedly distant. Walking away at a brisk pace, Hyrcanus's thoughts churned darkly. For a brief moment, he had been completely overwhelmed by Cheb's power. His teeth clenched. Blazing with rage, he silently swore that the next time they met, he would no longer be the same person he was now. Later, after entering a dungeon, the encounter still weighed heavily on his mind. He clearly understood the gap in strength between them. Cheb and Saray were roughly on the same level. That meant only one thing. If he wanted revenge, he would have to reach that level of power himself. As the thought settled, a massive black tiger suddenly lunged at him from the shadows. Before Hyrcanus could react, his skeleton warrior leapt forward, placing itself between the beast and its master. In a single decisive motion, it crushed the tiger to the ground and destroyed it instantly. And that's where our video ends. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and leave a comment down below. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you're updated on our next content. Until the next video.